Good morning. Nice to be with you all today. So, I'm talking about speaking into the silence. That's the name of the talk. We've been talking about silence this week, exploring the value of silence in our lives, how we seek it out and prize it, how we've learned to open into silence in our meditation. And then, as we become accustomed to the landscape of silence in our practice, the question arises, how silent is silence? It isn't always so silent, is it? There can be quite an internal hum or buzz or distant conversation that we can't quite understand, or there might be visual things or smelling things even, or active thinking, which can be quite loud. Silence has different textures and colors for each of us. In reflective meditation practice, after our time of meditation and reflection, we deliberately bring in speech. We do this for many reasons, of course, but the most salient one is that in our lives we speak often. Therefore, we believe that it's valuable to bring into our meditation space the act of speaking, of listening to ourselves, to bring our thoughts into the world, into action, so to speak. Giving ourselves the time and the space to practice transforming from our internal way of speaking, our internal language, to communicating to others. Over the course of teaching this last 5 years, I guess, I have learned to trust my impulse to speak when it arises. I have learned to trust that what I say will be wise enough, kind enough, appropriate enough in the situation. It took a while, though, and since we've been talking about speech this week, I'd like to take into account how it is in transitioning from internal to external speech, from the sounds of silence to making that silence heard. So I wanted to add my thoughts. It has taken me a long time to trust my impulse to speak. In my pre-practice days, I used to second guess what I would say quite a lot. After the fact, of course. I often would embarrass myself by some of the things that I had said, or I was around people who let me know when I wasn't speaking very skillfully. Not in so many words, perhaps, but more by their facial expression or their wandering attention. In those days, I was, admittedly, more of an impulse speaker. I said whatever came into my mind. I didn't think much about it. I didn't think about what I had said. Probably I was trying to get something off my chest. Alternatively, if I had recently shamed myself by something that I had said, then I wouldn't say anything. There were also times when I didn't think that I had anything to add to the conversation, maybe because I wasn't smart enough or couldn't express myself properly, whatever, so I just held back. Those years that I spent second guessing myself were also the early years of my meditation practice. Through those many hours of silent meditation, I would ask myself endlessly, was what I said appropriate? Was it kind, useful, true, timely? All the qualities of wise or right speech that the Buddha pointed to. I believe that spending so many hours in silence on retreat, all those days and days of silence, I came to value the opportunity to talk, to be heard, and I craved hearing others, so that anything the teachers would say was valuable, even when it wasn't, even when it didn't speak to my own experience. I gave over to them the power of their speech and their expression. Slowly, these two worlds came together, listening to the silence in the meditation hall, listening to the wisdom of silence, letting things stew and simmer within me, and looking forward to my interview with the teacher. I would practice what I wanted to say. For long stretches of time leading up to the every other day 10-minute interview with a teacher, I would practice just how I wanted to word it. But it turned out in the actual interview, I found that I said nothing of the sort. I spoke directly of my difficult meditations. Slowly, I learned to speak from my experience, which no one could disagree with. I found I just needed to say what was true for me, there being no other opportunity during a long silent retreat to do this. Journaling was not encouraged in those retreats, so that those 10 minutes with the teacher were precious to me and taught me that I did have words, even if they were filled with anguish and pain, to say what was happening for me. It took a long time to trust my desire to speak about my experience, I believe, and to allow myself to speak from it. I slowly came to realize that I didn't have to believe any particular experience as the truth with a capital T, only that it was true in that moment. However, over time, as I learned to speak from my experience, another phenomena has developed, or perhaps it was there and I just hadn't noticed it. I have come to understand that I have the ability or gift, habit, whatever, that gives what I say a certain authority. It sounds like I know what I'm talking about. I know this about myself. I think I learned this skill from my father. He would make a pronouncement and then, with a wry expression, cite a recent study by a group called Keys, Keys, and Keys, and then he would laugh and at the same time acknowledge this confidence in himself, like I do sometimes, if I'm not paying attention to my speech. So when I recognize that similar tone in my own voice or that certain feeling that I get when I'm doing it, I try to acknowledge that the voice of the one who knows is true for me in that moment, but that's as far as it goes. You don't have to take it for truth. It's just my experience. And maybe there's some wisdom in it, or maybe not, but it's up to you to decide. My friends, I hope, know this about me and are able mostly to take it into account. But sometimes it's hard, I know, because in those moments of being the one who knows, I am quite convinced that I do know what I'm talking about. I see that it can be a problem sometimes if the person that I'm talking to is vulnerable, if I want to help them, if I think I have something useful or valuable to add. I might be more convincing than is helpful, and the person might take up what I say when it isn't useful, really, or true, or timely for them. Which brings me to the daily online. For a long time, I didn't come on days that I wasn't teaching. But then I found I really missed you and wanted to be here. I wanted to take refuge in our Sangha. But I hesitated to speak up. I thought I should let you all talk. And I tried showing up and being silent, but that kind of felt like withholding to me, waiting for others, letting others carry the ball. So these past few months, I have been asking myself, can I be part of this group on the 6 days that I don't teach and be the teacher on Friday? How to switch back and forth between being a participant and a teacher. On 1 day a week, being willing to sound like I know what I'm talking about, and the other days just being part of the group. I have tried just listening and not speaking up, but I find myself increasingly uncomfortable. I really can't just listen. I love coming here. It's a safe place, a place I'm known and held, a place we all belong, a place we learn from each other. Why wouldn't we all want to be part of that? It's also worth acknowledging that a lot of what I talk about these days is related to my cancer. If I'm honest, how could it not? That's what's happening to me. It's taken over my life, taken up my time and energy, and I know that several of you have a form of cancer or other debilitating condition that has taken over your life. But I try to normalize the fact that living with a death sentence is still living. It needs to be taken in, acknowledged, both by the person and with it and the other people who live with us and know us. There is a value in normalizing it by talking about what we are going through, I believe. And I believe that it's likely that for many people, cancer is still a difficult subject. When hearing someone talking about her cancer, they may feel that they shouldn't bring up their smaller concerns. What is my tiny dukkha compared to cancer? Not even worth mentioning. I get this feeling sometimes, people hesitating to talk about their lives because what is one small problem compared to facing death? Well, here's the thing. We are all facing death. For the most part, we are all already past our peak. whatever that means to you. We're past our physical strength, likely, our mental acuity, possibly our psychological flexibility. We have mostly reached our peak and are coasting downhill, either gently or rapidly, or both at the same time. And let me say parenthetically, I do believe that there is one aspect of our being human that can grow and develop as we age, perhaps especially as we age, and that is our spiritual development. I feel that we can blossom and bear inner fruit for a very long time, as long as we're alive if we want to, even well into deep physical impairment or dementia. But this is a topic for another day. We are all mortal. Any of us might be hit tomorrow by the proverbial bus and either die instantly or linger for many years severely impaired. As aging humans, we are already living many years beyond what was normal even a generation ago. None of us are who we once were. We'll never be that person again. And we each have our own dukkha, our own burdens of responsibility and good or bad fortune. No one's experience is graver or more pressing than another's, really. The end is in sight for all of us. Everyone's fear, pain, stress is equally valued here, as well as our joyful moments, our silly and happy times. How fortunate for us to be together. Thank you for your attention. May the goodness that arises from our practice and from this act of sharing be a benefit to all beings everywhere.